and we are joined by Eric Simione, the head coach of the Boardman boys soccer team, live on YSN. Eric, thank you so much for joining us on Running Point today.
Good. Thanks for having me, Anthony.
And we talk about boys soccer and what you guys have coming back. What are some of the prospects for your program this year when you talk about the excitement around the soccer program and what you guys do have returning?
Well, everybody, I'm sure everybody's starting that question with a comparison to last year. It's just such a relief to be able to be back to doing our normal summer activities, the practices, being able to scrimmage with each other, going to the summer tournaments. That was definitely something that was probably missed by everybody last year. I'm sure pretty much any coach you talk to would agree with that. And so we've had a chance really to see a lot of our returning players and how they've progressed after last year. And we've got I think we have four players who last year were all district, and we had six actually. There's four that are returning though, which is very exciting to have. We've got a number of new prospects and new players coming up to work with them, and we're getting a chance to see them as well. And none of that would be possible if we had to go through another summer like last year. Just really nice to be able to actually go out and play some of these summer tournaments and see how everyone's adapting and improving and working together and developing chemistry.
What kind of advantages does that give you guys to have back to a normal summer, as you said, and be able to do some of the things that you weren't able to do last year, and maybe you use the summer a little bit more to grow and be ready for the fall? What kind of advantages does that really bring to your team?
Well, the biggest advantage is really there's two things really. One is just I think you're able to make better decisions as a coach in terms of who you have and where you can put people, and who are your starters, who's coming off the bench, what formation works best for the talent that you have on the soccer field, who can sub in for certain players, who's better on what side of the field. All of those things can be hidden when you're only able to scrimmage yourself, when you're only able to just have inter squad scrimmages like last year. Maybe you looked good against yourself, but if you weren't as strong if you weren't really that strong in reality, well, then it's gonna show up right away in game one when you play against an opponent who's bringing you a very different look than what your own team can do for you. And secondly, soccer is a different. I'm sure, as you know, it's a very different type of sport compared to, say, a football or a basketball. There's certain times when you run a set play or a set piece for corner kicks and free kicks and such, but the actual play of the game is just oftentimes so free flowing, and your players, your trusted players as well as your role players, they really have to know where their teammates are, what their teammates are capable of doing. And there's a chemistry that really has to develop. And without actually playing, you can run all the drills you want, you can run all the practices you want, until you actually go out and play. You don't see that, you don't develop that, you don't improve upon that. And soccer is so much based on chemistry and just a fluid nature between everybody that's on the field and knowing who your teammates are and what they're capable of doing and where they'll be at a certain time in the game. That's just, you can't replicate that in just your own inter squad scrimmages to the same extent that you can when you try it against an opponent that doesn't know where you are and you don't know where they're going to be.
Soccer has grown so much in this area in the last 15, 20 years, and it's a testament to the programs that have gone and really had a lot of success to bring some light into soccer in the area. How exciting is it to you as a soccer coach to kind of see the growth of soccer in the area and the growth of youth soccer, and to be able to kind of use that?
It's been fantastic. I mean, I think back to what it looked like when I was a youth playing in youth leagues and things of that sort, and it's just changed so drastically. The organization of it, and once you get to the high school level, the success that certain programs have had over the history of their program. We've got a number of programs that are their history is pretty well respected across the state. And the recent success that certain programs have had has just been great for the area. There used to be that idea that Youngstown soccer was a bit of an afterthought. And I don't think that's the case anymore. There's definitely some certain programs that have had not just a one-time bit of success, but routine success, reaching the regionals and even the state tournaments multiple times. And that just helps everyone in the area. That improves the excitement and the enthusiasm for the sport. And we're trying to even work backwards from that now. There was a group of coaches who just this past winter worked on putting together some spring activities for the junior high players, trying to start to reach down into the middle schools and the junior high schools to start to work with those 7th and 8th grade students who will be coming to the high schools soon, and trying to keep that enthusiasm, because in this area there isn't anyone who officially has a junior high school program yet. But just the opportunity to have a few friendly games between some area schools. I think there were about 8 girls programs that did that this past spring, and there were 4 or 5 boys programs that did that. And hopefully that's just going to continue to grow. And if we can reach down and keep that excitement, because let's be honest, almost everybody plays soccer at a certain age. Almost everybody plays when they're 5, 6, 7 years old, and then they start to take interest in other sports. The more kids that we can keep excited and involved in this activity, that's just going to continue to help grow the sport in this area and really throughout Ohio in general.
You talk about the programs that have had success. You got one right in your backyard in your conference in Howland that went and won a state championship. What's it like competing against a team like that and being able to see a team like that so often and being able to kind of raise your bar and tell your kids that this is kind of the standard that we have to have?
Well, I think the easy answer is to say I'd like to not see them as often as we could. But no, Howland has put together an exceptional program in the past few years. They've always had they're one of the earlier programs in the area. I know we kind of made a big deal last year of it being our 40th season. And I think Howland's kind of right around the same start time. I think most of the actual high school soccer teams in the area, the oldest ones, kind of got started in the very late 70s, maybe early 80s. And Howland's been around for quite some time in Trumbull County. But the success they've had the past several years has been just phenomenal. I mean, some really standout players on that roster, and really, coaching wise, Brian Stiles is just a mastermind at what he's able to do and figure out the best option for his team. We take it as a challenge. We don't, I think one of the things we're proud of, we've had a lot of success throughout our program's history. And, we've had some good years recently as well. But whether we have an up or a down year, we take a game like Howland as a real challenge. We know that, nobody can say, okay, they're absolutely going to win state. Certainly they did last year, but we know they're a contender. We know they're at that top tier, not just in the area, but statewide. And, we don't back down from that. And they're not the only team like that we play. We had University School last year as well. We've got Akron Hoban on this year's schedule. Those are all great programs. So we take those as challenges. Our goal is never to have an undefeated season. That's just not, it's not a realistic goal. It's not something that should be a goal. Our goal is to play our best soccer every time we step on the field, no matter who the opponent is. And, when you know you're playing an opponent like Howland, I'll tell you what, there's times when we might lose the game, but we played phenomenally. A couple of years ago, we had a 0-0 tie with Howland. Last year, not this past fall, but the year before, when they made it to the state finals, but came up just a bit short to Tip City in the final. There was a point in time where I think, this might not sound like something to be proud of, but our guys were. There was a time where until I think we scored first on them in our meeting. We were up 1-0, ended up losing 3-1, but until the state semifinals, we were the first team that had a lead on Howland at any point in the season.
That is something to be proud of.
Yeah, I mean, okay, no, did we win the game? No. Did we want to win the game? Yes. Were we trying our hardest to do so? Yes. But inevitably, they just had more firepower than we did. But when you can go out there and I guess to borrow a line from Bob Seger, when you can have little victories, those things matter. When you can look back, and sometimes those are the things that players will remember. They'll remember years from now. They won't remember every game. They certainly won't remember every play. But the story they're going to tell their team, we played against the state champions. And you know what? At halftime, it was 0-0.
And we took a lead on them. And we competed.
Those kinds of things. Those are things that's an exciting, that's the fun part of, there's a lot of serious nature to this business, but when you really get down to it, it's still 16 and 17-year-old kids playing a game. And those are the fun parts. We actually used that, when we did have that 1-0 lead, we talked about that we kind of reflected back on that old scene from Rocky where, you're not expected to be here. You're not expected to do this. And here you are, it's halftime. It's 1-1. What can we do in the second half here? And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Rocky didn't win the fight,
right?
But everybody remembers it anyway. And that's from a perspective of a teenage boy, that can be the fun part too.
Well, with no junior high programs, how kind of developed are the kids when they get to you, like as a freshman? I mean, do you see that soccer is still getting developed at the youth level, or would you like to see it a little bit more developed by the time they get to you as a freshman?
You always would like it to be more, but sometimes, in all honesty, it fluctuates from year to year. Sometimes you have a great group that's just naturally talented. Sometimes you have a group that played together a lot and have developed that chemistry with at least each other before they even got to high school. Sometimes you have a lot of kids who played club soccer. We've got a couple of clubs in the area. And, generally speaking, if you only have 2 or 3 kids that are playing at SVA or TCSC, well, that's probably not as much as some other schools have. And you might be a little behind them in terms of development. If you've got a lot of kids that have, then you probably have a good group coming in. The youth programs, they have their rec leagues, they have their competitive leagues. And, it's still, from our perspective, it's still a public school extracurricular activity. And, we've had kids that are very highly skilled and, they're traveling to Hudson to play for a club in the off season. And we've had kids that never did anything more than play recreational level at Boardman Soccer Association. And we've got to put it all together. That's kind of where our part comes in. That's from the coaching perspective. It's kind of like a big puzzle. Here are the pieces we have. Does this all come together to make a picture, or are we missing some spots? What do we got to do? But there's a lot of development that takes place at those younger ages, and I've kind of seen it firsthand now as I watch. I have a nephew that's going into 6th grade, so I've watched him come up, and I see how one age group adds a different element to the game as opposed to a previous year. I think this is the first year that they're allowed to head the ball, so we'll see how that goes. You forget when you've been at the high school level now this will be my 20th year. You forget sometimes the increments of how it develops in that youth program. So having him there has kind of reminded me of those things.
20 years, you got to really have a passion for what you do. I think not enough people realize what it takes to kind of be the coach at the high school level and be the head coach, the time it takes. What are some of the things that make you so passionate about it and make you keep wanting to come back and if I let you have such a long career on the sidelines?
Yeah, that's a hard question. How do you explain what you love to do? It's just something inside you. I started doing this, and I've been teaching even longer than that, but I've coached a number of I've been coaching something at Boardman High School for 31 years now. And, it's really, it is a passion for the sport. There is that. There's an excitement. It's a sport that I grew up playing and loving. It's a competition. It's an exciting thing. It's a great sport to love if you understand it and play it. And at the same time, really it's a bigger picture. I have to be honest with you. If I don't consider myself a soccer coach, I consider myself Boardman High School's soccer coach. If for some reason I wasn't, if for some reason the athletic director came down and told me, hey, this is going to be your last year, we're going to do something different next year, I do not imagine myself, as much as I love soccer, I don't think I would do this anywhere else. This is a part of my job. It's a part of my profession. It's a love for soccer, but it's also a love for Boardman High School. I just don't see myself moving on elsewhere. When the day comes for this to end, then it ends. That's just how it is.
Before we let you go, highlight some of your players and maybe some of the leaders on this team that you're going to lean on this year to really have a successful season, the vocal leaders and maybe some of the kids that lead by example.
Sure. Just hard to say, but I think we have a really good core group. Obviously, I think anybody that's out there in the soccer community is aware of Cole Conkson. Just an exceptionally skilled player. He's been a varsity player for 4 years now. He's probably our most experienced player on the field. He's been all district a couple of times now. He is he's very knowledgeable of the game. He's just a very motivated competitor. And obviously we're going to be depending on him to take care of a lot of our offense. Flip to the other side of the field. I really do believe we've got one of the best goalkeepers in the area. Junior, he's going to be a junior, Carson Essed. He is just so committed to that particular position. It was just obvious from the very beginning. As soon as we saw him, I mean, he even got some time in varsity games as a freshman. And it was just very obvious. I mean, I think he's already, if he's not there already, I think he's well on his way to being the best keeper that's ever played at Boardman High School, in my opinion. Some other guys on the field, defensively, Alex Schmidt has been playing fantastic for us in the back line. He's going to be a junior. Sava Cerniak is just, I'm not sure if Sava is human. I think he's a cyborg that came from Serbia for us. He's a soccer living, breathing machine. He is constantly at the field, just working on his own skill set. He's only going to be a sophomore, and he's just a fantastic all-around skilled player. Never a joke. Never, I mean, everything is just serious natured with him. He just loves the sport so much, and I don't know that I've ever seen anybody really that I can only think of maybe one other player that's just worked as hard at the sport as he does. Landon Mitchell has stepped in nicely also as a sophomore. Ian Schmidt is doing a great job in the center for us, and as a center midfielder. And then you've got some other role players that Carter Mascola, he's been a role player for us for a couple years. He's probably looking at a starting position this year. He's just such a dependable, competitive, focused player. We've got a number of other people, that are going to role play on the outsides. AJ Barber, Aaron Hura. I hate to keep mentioning names because I know I'm going to forget somebody. I'm terrible with names. But we're really happy with what we have. And the more we play, I feel like we're developing that, not only that chemistry, but some depth with some other players as well. And we're really, I mean, you never know what a season can bring. And we certainly play a challenging schedule. I mean, some of our first games are teams that were in the state finals last year with South Range and Cardinal Mooney and things like that. So, it's a tough schedule, but we like what we have. We can only control what we have, and we can only control how we respond to what our opponents have. And we've got a great group of guys to build around, and just a lot of excitement. We're looking forward to a great season.
Coach, we're looking forward to covering you this season, and we're looking forward to a successful Boardman boys soccer season. Thank you so much for coming on, and we will definitely get you on again real soon.
Absolutely. You take care. Thanks for having me.